Hey, Raider Nation, this is Heidi Stabbert. You might know me as KevlarPromDress here with Raider Homer, and we are kicking off our new podcast, the Only Nation Podcast. That's right, the Only Nation Podcast. Welcome. So, Homer, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing well, Heidi. How are you? Thanks for having me
I'm
on
doing.
this podcast.
Oh, well, thank you for being willing to do this with me. I really appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. I've been a fan of the Ladies of Darkness since y'all were just Win Ladies. I love that intro. I think y'all have some talent. I have some talent for sure. So it's an honor to be a part of a podcast with you.
Well, thank you, and it's an honor to be given a compliment like that. I really appreciate it.
No problem, no problem. I thought it was real cool to find out that you were producing a lot of the episodes.
Yeah, I've kind of moved on. I started as just a really diehard fan and started calling in more frequently, and then that developed into a segment, and then from that segment, it developed into me doing the editing and a lot of the writing for the show. And I love it. I just had this opportunity now to start this podcast. And so I was very happy to grab you and see if you wanted to join me.
Absolutely am. I'm stoked, like I said. So
Awesome.
the post production is something that, I kind of get into also. I taught myself how to do it, and operate the software and all that. So, there's a bit of fun, but I have to admit, I'm glad that, you're going to take over on this podcast because, man, I overwhelmed myself,
Right.
during last season. So it's nice to get out there and podcast and share the load.
Yeah, well, Ladies of Darkness, we had an additional member of the family join us, little Jack. And he has made our lives very full and wonderful, and has made Angria's life very busy. And it's really been hard for all of us to get together and be able to record. So I'm really happy to be able to do this with you. Get some of this Raider stuff out of my head, be able to talk about it.
Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
All right,
What's running through that head of yours?
let's run it through that head of mine. Well, uh, I got to admit, something happened this week that I was not happy about. I'm still not happy about it.
Okay, let's hear it.
My favorite position coach got let go.
Oh, yeah, a lot of people were
Buck,
upset about that.
yeah, Buckner. He is awesome. I fell in love with him watching him on Hard Knocks,
Yeah,
and just seeing how he worked with the guys and how much loyalty he inspired in them. And you could tell he rode them hard, but he wanted them to improve, and they really responded well to him.
yeah. I mean, he got maximum effort out of him. That's for sure. Crosby, was looking like the next Howie Long. So hopefully that wasn't as much Buckner as it is Max. And that continues. But that's the worrisome part, right? Is he had that line playing well. Because
Right.
even PFF, where I think they had PJ Hall and Hurst graded as the highest linemen on our team. I thought I read. So
Hmm.
through and through, it was looking good. 32 sacks this year from what 13 last year. You know,
Yep.
and imagine if the secondary, was healthy, could have been more. But yeah, it's troublesome. There's a lot of conspiracy theories out there about why Buckner got fired. But I think the Marinelli hire is, a contingency plan overall for the overall defense, and of course, football starts in the trenches, right? So you get a defensive line coach that taught Demarcus Lawrence, yeah, and, he
Hmm.
coached him up well, and so,
Yeah.
but he can also call plays. So what you're doing, in my mind, is you're setting Marinelli to coach the defensive line and get them ready for his system and have him understand his guys and how to utilize the defensive line in case he has to implement his system, you know,
Right.
in case Gunther gets fired. Because, Gunther, I like the 3 year idea of keeping a coach around for 3 years. I think that's the right thing to do. But yeah, let's say week 8, and our defense is atrocious. We can make a move and still have some time to win. Because, there were a lot of games that, we could have won if the defense would have just been able to hold, get some people off the field, get the offenses off the
Right.
field.
Well, we also have to consider that our offense stalled too, and was putting the defense out there on the field for so long
Yeah,
that they were just plain exhausted.
yeah, and depleted with injuries,
Right.
But yeah, Gruden, he definitely needs to get better at like halftime adjustments and things like that. But at the same
No
time,
kidding.
yeah, but at the same time, what are you going to do? I thought he did a great job overall, especially considering after Hard Knocks we had that ordeal with AB. That's 2 years in a row that we've had off the field roster issues, in the off season, but we went 7-8. There was a few games like the Houston game. You go back and you watch that game. There are 3 plays
Mhm.
that we could have forced a turnover and or got that sack that what's his name Key missed. And we would have won that game. And even
Right.
Whitehead was right there on that touchdown pass that when Key missed that sack. Whitehead was right there with the fingertip inches away from the ball. It's just that game just we could have been 8-8 right there if we would have just got away with that win. We're so close,
Yeah.
but yeah, the defense has to close the deals, and yes, the offense has to perform throughout all 4 quarters. But at the same time, Gruden, I had to go back right and check the scores, but I don't remember Gruden being his high scoring offense, a high flying offense. He's more about the running game first, which
Right.
you look at the playoffs, that's what's winning too, is those run games, or the teams that got into the playoffs, they all had good running games. So that's really not gone. That hasn't gone away, even though the NFL looks more like a passing league. You can still run. So you know, I think Gruden will be all right. He just needs a better wide receiving core that's not going to fall apart at the beginning of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. Last year in preseason, we thought that we had conquered the demons of the year before, which was a completely depleted wide receiving core.
Yeah.
And, we went into training camp, into the preseason. We had this fantastic number one receiver ready to go, and just everything crashed, fell apart. It ended up, towards the end of the year, uh, Hunter Renfro was basically our best wide receiver that we had left, and
Yeah.
he's a great, great pickup. The fact that we got him in the 5th round is amazing.
Yeah.
But man, that wide receiver core was so depleted, and I think the only wide receiver that Carr had left over from the previous year was Marcel Aitman.
Yep.
Does that sound right?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, because Doss was new, Williams was new.
Hmm.
Number 12, what's that kid's name from Buffalo? Dang, I can't remember his name right now, but he was new. Yeah, but Aitman was like the lone one, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. So if our offense, maybe if we had a wide receiving core, and we could have scored more points, and not been so limited, or knowing the defenses knew that we were going to run most of the time, and we had no offensive outside weapons. But
Right.
but I don't think that would have saved Buckner's job, because I think that Marinelli has that relationship with Gruden from back in Tampa. So there's as some people say, good old boy connection there. But at the same time, you're bringing in that 70, yeah, he's 70 years old, but you're bringing in all that experience that where
Exactly.
sometimes Gunther looked confused, and so now the question is, well, why wouldn't, to me, I wonder, I didn't like the Buckner firing either. So I wondered, why wouldn't you fire like the linebacking coach, and put
Hmm.
Marinelli there? But I don't know. But
Yeah, our linebacking stats were atrocious.
yeah, yeah, they were bad.
Absolutely atrocious.
Yeah, I think the wide receivers and the linebackers were the 2 worst groups on the team.
Yeah, and I have no problem with hiring Marinelli at all. I just think that it should have been a different position that he took over, or even just create a position for him. Assistant defensive head coach, uh, and just have him there as that safety net for Gunther. Because
Yeah.
I've never been impressed by Gunther. I know that he's been fairly well respected around the league, but he has not had, overpowering top 10 defenses, year after year. They've been middle of the road, serviceable, but nothing that impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, And that's kind of, when you say that middle of the road, it kind of reminds me of when Gruden, when we had Bresnahan. He wasn't some elite coach, I don't think, but we had, at least I think, top 12, top 10 defense. So that it's necessary to have that kind of defense. And Gunther, I'm glad he's getting one more year, but you can tell that the writing is on the wall. But
Yes.
he hasn't been too impressive. I've been disappointed. But
Anyways,
yeah, so we have to move on from that, right? Not for long. That's what the NFL stands for.
that's right.
So so let's go ahead and move on, right? So Mayock, he comes out and he talks about building around Carr and needing depth, right? We've already mentioned the injuries. What do you think
Yes.
about Mayock building around Carr?
I think that that is part of their plan, but I also think that right now they're not going to say anything that makes Carr look bad. They want to keep him looking good.
Yeah.
Um, they Gruden did not give him a vote of confidence at the end of the year, but they want to be able to do something with him if they decide to move on. And I honestly am not sure if they've decided to move on from him yet or if they're planning on keeping him around. It seems like every day there's something new in the news, and it seems like Carr is definitely going to, he's either going to definitely be back as a starter next year, or no, wait, he's been traded and nobody wants him. It it just seems like every day, the rumors flip flop about him. I think what Mayock did was just say, hey, we've got a quarterback. We're going to build around him, saying the right things, and they are going to build around him. But I'm not so sure that that means that they're definitely going to keep him.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's Gruden, right? We traded Khalil Mack. You never know what's going to happen, right? And so now that we're on
Exactly.
this topic, right? There's that picture floating around of Mark Davis talking to Tom Brady. I think the Raider Nation is split on this. And let me just say this: the Tuck rule sucked. I saw it. I remember that. Okay, and that's what led to the demise of the Raiders afterwards, right? But look,
Yeah.
it was the NFL that made that call. It wasn't the Patriots' fault, right? So I don't hold
Yes.
any grudge against the hoodie and or Tom Brady, right? Lots of Raider fans, oh, F the Cheatriots, F the Cheatriots. Like, hey man, research your history, right? What's Raider rule number one? Cheating is encouraged. So I don't hold that against the Patriots. I mean, if the Raiders would have done all that cheating and won 6 Super Bowls in my lifetime, man, I don't even care if they call me a cheater. So I'm not
Yeah, I'd be
worried
sitting
about
there like
that.
the cat ate the canary. I'd just be sitting there, sitting proud.
Yeah, right. So what if we got Tom Brady? Because look, you think if you think get Brady in as a free agency, right? You get 2 more years out of Tom Brady, right? You can trade Derek Carr for a second round pick, which is where you got him anyways, and I don't think we have a second round pick this year. And you get out of that contract, you sign Brady, and what if that happened?
I think that where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah,
I know that there have been just a lot of rumors about it, but Brady has sold his house that he
yeah.
was living in near Boston, and he is prepared to talk to different teams. I think he's just putting out feelers to see places that would be interested in having him and places that he would be interested in going to. But I think the reason why we still see rumors about him coming to uh, play for the Raiders is because there is a little bit of substance to those rumors.
hmm Oh yeah, I mean I'm with
And
you. Because wasn't he? I think he's admitted in the past that he was a Raider fan growing up. So why not ride off into the sunset in Las Vegas and lead the Raiders to 2 winning seasons, hopefully within the first 2 years of being the Raiders in Las Vegas.
right, and he would be a great mentor for a young
Right.
rookie or a quarterback that's never had a chance in the league.
And call me crazy, right? Because I'm a Derek Carr fan. I
So am
love
I.
Derek Carr. So don't call me crazy, right, when I say this. I could see, being that Derek Carr has admitted that he wants to be a Raider for his life, for life, I can see Derek Carr taking a pay cut. Like, what if we ended up with Tom Brady and Derek Carr battling out in training camp, and then if of course Tom Brady's going to start, but then that's that competition, that mentorship, that maybe Carr needs, because Carr just came and beat Schaub out and has just been leading the team since.
Yeah, and I think that has been a problem with the coaching staff, all the coaches that Carr has played under, is other than his rookie year, where he had to beat out Schaub, he has not had competition.
At all.
It's really been given to him.
Yeah.
And, iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
Every athlete needs to know that they can be replaced.
Right.
And he hasn't had that. He hasn't had that motivation. And I think it's crucial for anyone to have that. Look at Joe Montana. I mean, he had Steve Young coming up behind him.
Yeah.
Talk about iron sharpening iron. And look at Brett Favre. He had Aaron Rodgers under him.
Yeah.
And Favre was not interested in mentoring him at all.
Right.
But it sure did keep him sharp.
Yeah, I mean it's man, I can see the Raider Nation being split over this. I mean, but if Brady comes to the Raiders, I'm sold. I'm buying in.
Yeah, it would kill me. It would make me sick to my stomach. But I am a Raider fan overall. I'm not a City fan. I have players that I really, really like, and I'm fans of those players. But overall, predominantly, I am a Raiders fan. Whatever gets the team the wins. That's what I want.
I'm with you on that. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, what's our phrase? Just win, baby.
Just win. That's right. And okay, so we're talking about Mayock on Carr, and so he also talked about needing depth, right? And so free agency is right around the corner, right? Of course, we just talked about Brady, but we've also talked about our wide receiving core and our linebackers. Now, I don't know the names, but free agency is around. Who do you think we should sign?
I think it's really hard to say right now because there are a lot of players on a lot of teams that are very good, but their contract is costs the team more than they're worth. Say they're a really, really good cornerback, for example, and they're contracted to get $12 million this year. But the team can have somebody almost as good as them for $3 million. Well, that cornerback that gets the $12 million a year, he could be a cap casualty. And we don't know who those players are going to be. So for us to even speculate on free agency right now is kind of futile because we just don't know who is going to be a free agent.
Right. Well,
and we don't know who is going to re-up before the league year starts.
So I'm in, like I said, yeah, like I don't know all the free agents, all the names out there, but being in Texas, you hear about the Cowboys and the Texans a lot, and right now, being that we traded Cooper to the Cowboys and they got to get him signed, a casualty they're saying is that Byron Jones kid, who a lot of people are saying, he's a safety or in a cornerback, but he's really good. So, that's a name. But yeah, you're right. It is a little too early. It is too early. And plus we need to do our research, right?
Exactly.
All right. Well,
I've been more up on learning about the draft and our options with that than I have been free agency, simply because the draft, we know who is going to be in the draft.
Yeah.
So we know who's going to be available.
Well,
with free agency, we don't know yet.
I could pose you another question for you right here that's kind of teetering in between the draft and free agency, right? So right now, earlier we were talking about Gruden loving to run, and yes, we have Jacobs, but Gruden had Wheatley and Kaufman, Wheatley and Gardner. So he's a two-back guy. So Derrick Henry is going to be. This is his free agent year. So yes, they could franchise tag him, right? But let's say the Raiders come in with their pick, their number 12 overall pick, and then in the first round and offer the Titans for Derrick Henry because Derrick Henry is just asking for too much. What about that? I mean, that takes, to me, I think, considering that Josh Jacobs didn't really carry the load entirely in Alabama, and he had some durability issues, even though he's a tough guy. that thunder and lightning combo. We need that. I mean, what do you think if we trade? Would your mind blow up if we traded for Derrick Henry?
Oh, I would be ecstatic if we had Derrick Henry.
Yeah, that dude can run.
Uh, the number 12 pick is a really high price though, because not only would we be giving up that draft pick, we would also be having to pay him
The big money.
probably upwards of 15, 16 million a year.
Yeah,
I'm not sure we couldn't get a reasonably good running back in the draft or even in free agency that would be a pretty good complementary back to Jacobs.
yeah.
Because I really don't see Dalen Richard and Washington both being there next year. I think Dalen Richard is probably on his way out. I don't see Richard and Washington both being there.
Right, but other two, I'm thinking you keep Richard because Richard is a utility player. He can return punts and such. And
Richard
early.
is somebody that I never want to see returning a kick of any type ever again.
Okay, all right.
I mean, I love the little guy, but he has no ball security when it comes to uh, fielding punts or kickoffs. I cringe every time the ball goes up in the air towards him. I really do.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely like Renfro back there too. So, but that
Yeah,
could be another thing though that could be a sign of Richard being on his way out. Is the Renfro being able to come in and field punts, and then hopefully Dwayne Harris, because I think we signed him to like a 2-year contract or something. So Dwayne Harris should be back next year also.
I believe he's a free agent.
Oh, okay, man. Was
You know,
he?
Gruden likes his 1 year, 2 year deals. I think that he might have been a 1 year,
Okay. Well, I think that's
just off
somebody
the
else
top
I
of
would
my
like for
head.
us to sign if that's the case.
I
Because
like Harris.
yeah,
The thing I didn't like about Harris was that he took up a wide receiver position and took away some of our depth at wide receiver. So that left us basically with 5 wide receivers to start the year with. And we can see how at the end of the year that really did affect us.
right. You're right. That's good thinking. That's good thinking.
I know that Andrea, she loves Dwayne Harris, and I do really like him, but her and I have different opinions. I don't think you should give up uh, a spot completely just to a special teams specialist for that.
Yeah,
That's just
especially yeah, like you're saying, we had depth chart issues, and we needed some wide receivers at the end of the year. That makes sense to me.
right. Yeah.
So you were saying that you're paying attention to the draft because we know who's going in. So what are our draft needs, and who would you like to see fill those needs?
I think the top 2 are linebacker and wide receiver.
Right.
And we know how much Gruden loves his offense. So if there is a wide receiver that he wants available, I think he's going to be more likely to pick them. The one exception I think it would be is Isaiah Simmons out of Clemson.
Yeah, I saw him. Yeah, I like him.
I don't think he will still be there at number 12, though. And the gap between him and the next linebackers is pretty big. So at pick number 12, I could definitely see us going with a um, one member of a very deep wide receiving class, and either picking up a linebacker in the 3rd round or having tried to fill it during free agency beforehand.
Yeah, I'm excited about free agency. Of course, after AB, but also, Tyrell Williams, he was dealing with what, plantar fasciitis, right? And they
Oh yeah,
say, that's a pretty big injury. I think that's what held Deion Sanders back for a little bit too, for a couple of years.
I've
But
had it before. It is hell.
yeah, so hopefully he can come back strong and but yeah, he wasn't necessarily a true number one, but we're gonna need him to be a number one, especially if you got Renfro being able to work the middle and then go out wide.
Hmm.
But yeah. Wide receiver and linebacker for sure. But what do you think about trading up from 12 to get Simmons?
I actually like the idea. My first gut reaction is I like the idea. I think that we have neglected linebacker positions for so long.
Oh yeah.
There's such a huge need for them.
Oh yeah.
And we just we don't believe in picking a linebacker before the fourth or fifth round. And we wonder why we can't plug in a guy uh, to wear the green dot helmet and to run the defense. Well, you can't bring in a fourth or fifth round rookie and have them jump in to do that.
Yeah, no, we need a
Not in our
solid.
system.
Yeah, we need a number one guy.
Exactly.
First round guy, because we don't have a second round pick this year, right?
We do not yet. I could really see us packaging up a couple of picks to move up, or possibly to move back from the 19th spot,
Yeah.
because we've got two first rounders,
Yeah, the
the
19th
number
is the
12 and
Bears.
number 19.
Yeah. Yeah, well, because last year, that Mac trade was a shocker, but getting Jacobs and Renfro and Mad Max and last year's draft class, I think made up for it, and we still got two first rounds this year, so that's pretty crucial. But
Right.
let's talk about the 2019 draft class. To me, you mentioned Renfro earlier. To me, Renfro is the next Fred Biletnikoff. When I saw that
Hmm.
kid early in the season, like twist weirdly and catch the ball like at the 1 yard line, and he face plants, and I'm like, that dude can catch. That's it. He's done. And then I mean, my heart sank right when he got the cracked rib and a punctured lung. I'm like, oh great. But then he comes back 2 years, two weeks, excuse me, later and scores that long touchdown. I mean, like, boom, that's the
Right.
next Fred Biletnikoff. What do you think
Oh,
about that comparison?
I think that's pretty spot on. And I love Renfro, if you haven't been able to tell yet. I loved the entire draft. The draft class is easily one of the best classes the Raiders have ever had, and I think it stands as one of the best classes uh, in NFL history. I think within the next couple of years, we'll be able to look at it in terms of history and be able to say, yeah, that was really one of the best ones that the league has ever seen.
Yeah, because Foster Moreau, right? He got, I think, the highest rating out of any rookie tight ends, like 4 or 5 touchdowns in the year. That's crucial, and
Yeah, I think it was 5.
yeah, that's crucial having because it takes the load off of Waller, and having those three really young tight ends, man, is going to be key because then you can run. Because remember when we had Lee Smith, right? Whenever he came in, you just knew we were going to run. You know what I mean? But having those three guys that can block and catch, opens it up, and especially with our pooling type guards, Gabe Jackson and Richie Incognito. I mean,
Hmm.
that's a Gruden style offense right there. You know?
Yeah, and you could really see after Moreau went down how our red zone offense was affected by that,
Yeah, yeah.
because he was really a catalyst to just getting that ball in the end zone.
Hmm.
He didn't have a lot of yards. He didn't have a huge amount of catches. In the red zone, he was deadly,
Oh yeah.
and losing him really affected that.
And then to carry on, keep on going with this draft class. Trayvon Mullen. He got torched, I think, early in the season, but man, that kid showed up, and yeah, he was getting some ticky tack calls. We don't get those kind of calls. Whatever he was doing to those receivers that got the
Right.
flags, we don't get those because it happens to our receivers all the time. We can see it as fans. The articles out there where they show you the numbers, you can read it. Of course, the NFL will never take it seriously because whatever. But that kid is good. Mullins, I think, can be the next lockdown corner that we need. Something like, hopefully, I wouldn't say Charles Woodson, but hopefully like a Nani Asamoah, you know?
Yeah, I believe that he was the one that had that in his college career they had never scored a touchdown on
Zero, he
him.
allowed 0 touchdowns. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
and
this, yeah.
that is pretty impressive.
And who else? Ingold, he was a free agent signing, but I mean, still, though, I mean, he still comes in as a rookie, you know?
Mhm.
That was great pickup. That's exactly what Gruden's been looking for. To me, he reminds me of John Ritchie, just without all the bleeding.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I loved his pickup. I loved that they were willing to let Keith Smith go. I know that he had been a favorite of Bisaccia, and he wanted to keep him, but I was really glad that they were willing to make that decision to keep Ingold above him because that really was the right decision. And of course, Crosby.
yeah, yeah, the
I
next
mean,
Howie Long in my mind. That kid can play. You know,
oh yeah, he can.
I think what because to me, I thought a lot of times, man, when he got when he wasn't involved in the play, and I'm watching him, he just didn't have that good strong arm bull rush. Get that bench press going and get that stiff arm out there. If he can get that bull rush and get stronger, it's over. It doesn't matter. You could trade Cleveland Farrell in a couple of years, and sign him, and it wouldn't
Hmm.
even matter.
Right. Yeah, and he is going to get stronger. He has a motor that does not stop.
Oh yeah,
So I totally see him hitting the weight bench, eating the protein, doing everything he can, getting the right kind of weight, get the right kind of strength that he needs. And he's just going to come in, you know, busting down the fence. He's going to
yeah,
go through like a brick wall.
oh yeah.
He's just going to charge through it.
I mean, ten and
And
a half
I don't
sacks.
see him slowing down at all.
You know, that's what round did he come in?
He was a fourth round pick.
I mean, God, can you believe 10.5 sacks and coming out of the fourth round? I mean, we're talking about a great draft class, and we haven't even brought up the offensive rookie of the year, Josh Jacobs,
Exactly.
in this part of the conversation.
Yeah.
But so yeah, Josh Jacobs, that's the kind of running back that we've been looking for, that we drafted Washington and signed Richard for, looking for, but they didn't turn into him, but he did, man. At first, when he held out, I was like, oh God, here we go again. But hey, that kid was worth every penny.
Yes. And, he held out for good reasons. He really did. He wanted to make sure that he had a good contract. He knew how hard life could be.
Yeah,
He was raised in a really, really tough environment, and he just wanted to make sure that his contract, represented him the best way possible.
yeah,
And he wanted to be able to take care of his family with it.
and he did it.
Uh,
I mean, that's the great thing. The story just came out where he bought his dad, a house. I mean, that's fantastic. I mean, that is a great story. And if he could just, hopefully he just becomes the next greatest running back for the Raiders of all time, and just to really cap off such a great story that's
right.
already a great story.
First Raider rookie running back that ever had 1,000-yard rushing season.
Yeah,
Marcus Allen would have, but his rookie year was strike shortened.
yeah, yeah. And that's funny that you bring up him, right? Because the comparisons were going to between Jacobs and Marcus, but then Marcus comes out and says, "No, he reminds me of Bo Jackson." We really haven't had that kind of dominant runner since those two. Don't get me wrong, Wheatley and Kaufman were really good together, but Kaufman retired 2 years into it, 2 or 3 years.
Hmm.
So, and Gardner was okay too, but that would the running backs kind of took a step back when it was Gardner and Wheatley. I think they weren't as explosive as Kaufman and Wheatley.
Yeah.
But yeah, since then, I mean, I know we got DMAC, but McFragile is what I call him. He just did not live up to the hype at all.
Yeah. We've had good running backs. We did have McFadden. We had Latavius Murray. I think Murray's still bouncing around somewhere. Was he with the Saints this year?
Yeah, yeah, he was. Yeah,
Yeah, he's still bouncing around. I still like him, but we are talking about Josh Jacobs in the conversation of Marcus Allen and Bo Jackson,
yeah.
which is quite a few levels above
Oh yeah,
McFadden or Murray
right.
or even like you said, Garner and Kaufman and Wheatley.
Yeah,
Uh, Marcus and Bo, I think, are the gold standard that we can look at in Raiders history for running backs, and I can definitely see Jacobs taking his place among them before his career is over.
Yeah, I hope so. Because hopefully the kid stays healthy, gets those, gets that bulk, that he needs to kind of protect himself a little bit more. You know,
Hmm.
unfortunately, right? With Jonathan Abram, right? We didn't even get to see him but one game. So that's another
Right.
thing. That's a great class. I mean, that kid still was playing well in Denver week one. He wasn't out of position. He was in position.
Hmm.
And you saw what kind of leader he is, in Hard Knocks. So, yes, this is definitely 2019 is definitely the best draft class I've ever witnessed.
Yeah. Overall, the class definitely it was the best one in Raiders history, in my opinion. We only had one player that was drafted that ended up not on the team at the end. That was Quentin Bell,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
he was just he was a shot in the dark, an athletic freak that has barely played defensive end in college and is still learning the position.
yeah,
And we just basically ran out of space for him. Everyone else, made the team, contributed greatly, and I just think it's the greatest class, uh, possibly in team history for sure.
yeah. I mean, Mike Mayock did a hell of a job, because when we first got Mayock, I was like, oh, wait a minute. That's a little too much star power now with Gruden and Mayock. And of course, everybody starts talking, oh, they're just getting all the ESPN guys and the analysis guys and all this. And, but damn,
Right.
Mayock got it done. And the great thing about that is when you go back and you study your history, right, is you learn that Al Davis interviewed Mayock. So this is something in my mind that Mark Davis is doing to repair the Raiders. He's gone back. He's
Mhm.
gotten, he got Reggie McKenzie, right? First things first, Reggie McKenzie. Reggie McKenzie is a part of the Raider family, not only being an ex-player, but he also learned from Ron Wolf, who Ron Wolf helped Al Davis build all those great teams. So,
Right.
Mark went out and did that. Mark got the new stadium. Unfortunately, he had to leave Oakland, but, it is what it is. And now Mark goes and gets back Gruden. And then Mark says, you know what? My dad should have hired you. You know what? My dad should not have fired you. And boom, here we are, 7-8.
Mhm.
We lost, a couple of games that we could have won. We should have won, whatever, you know. And now we're looking at Derek Carr being capable, no matter what the naysayers say, right? As far as him, throwing the ball away too quick or being too scared. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's just he needs a wide receiving core, whatever. But going into this offseason, we know we got a quarterback that can throw for 4,000 yards. And everybody's like, oh, man, check down, Captain check down. Yeah, well, you know what? I just watched Mahomes do a jet sweep, touchdown pass to Hill in the playoff games. Everybody's like, that's so great. That's the first touchdown pass. And it's like, dude, they're running the jet sweep. How many of those touchdown passes are jet sweeps? I mean, short
Mhm.
passing is the way that it is. Gruden's always been about that. That's why I knew that Carr would succeed in Gruden's
Yeah.
offense. It would just be a matter of whether we would get the wins or not.
Yeah. And that's the way Gruden's offense is built. Short passes, not necessarily checkdowns. I mean, that's the call. Are
Yeah,
these short passes?
yeah. And check downs are important, right? You're not supposed to see it because if Carr starts forcing the ball down the field, oh man, now he's forcing the ball down the field. I mean, and I saw Carr step up in the pocket enough times and deliver the ball with some oomph that I'm comfortable with him. And then you saw him at the end of the year run that RPO where he slid, but the referees, they said he went out of
Mhm.
bounds or whatever, and it stopped the clock. That was a
Terrible
debacle.
call.
Whatever. F you referees, that's why that report
Yeah.
got put out there on you. It's true. You go and you talk about, well, it's discipline, discipline. No, false starts and all the knucklehead shit, but with every single game, there's 2 or 3 calls that change the game on a consistent year after year, year after year, game after game. It's true. And unfortunately, luckily though, we got Mayock with
Mhm.
opening up with the 2019 draft class, and we got John Gruden, and they're working it out, so hopefully we'll be able to overcome the referees and beat the Zebras too, because it's always the Raiders versus the Zebras. Just don't even put the other team's name in there. Hey guys, you think we're gonna beat the Zebras this weekend? I hope so. It's embarrassing, but whatever.
Yeah, did you see those articles about that study that came out
Yeah,
about the Raiders and penalties
yeah,
being called
that
against them?
something Eco or something or Eco Max or something like that. Yeah, yeah, I read that article. I shared it on Facebook, man. I mean, I wasn't surprised. I was just glad that somebody had actually done the work, crunched the numbers, and put it into words where I was like, yeah, yeah, that's exactly what I meant to say. You know,
Yeah,
but yeah, it's absolutely. I mean, it's true. You can't don't come at me with conspiracy theories and all this or that. It's true. It's true. The eye test is important. You know what I mean? And the eye test tells you that the Raiders they get screwed. You know.
yeah. And you know what was interesting about that study was it looked at basically two different types of penalties.
Yeah.
It looked at the ones that are fairly objective, the things like
Ball
delay of
start.
game, too many players
Yep.
on the field,
Yep.
encroachment, false starts, things that can easily be agreed upon. And what that study found was the Raiders were actually at 80% of the NFL average. So the Raiders in penalty calls like that were actually below the NFL average.
Yeah.
But when it looked at penalties that were more judgment calls, um, pass interference, holding, roughing the passer, stuff like that, the Raiders were penalized at double the rate of the NFL average.
Yep.
One thing I found on here was DJ Hayden. He
Yeah.
said that he was penalized more as a Raider than he ever was playing for two other teams.
I mean
And
that's
get these numbers.
okay.
As a member of the Raider for 4 years, Hayden was called for 35 penalties in 45 games. In his 3 years with Detroit and Jacksonville, Hayden was called for just 11 penalties in 41 games. That's a 65% reduction in penalty calls
It's
against him.
crazy. I mean those are critical numbers. That's
Yeah,
critical. That can change careers. That can change seasons. All of that.
exactly. People are losing jobs based on,
Yes.
stuff like that.
Yes. This is a $1 billion industry. The referees need to be held accountable. How you do that is how you have to do that. You got to pay them a little bit more in order to fine them and make them have sign some kind of weird like a CBA deal or something like that. That's what you got to do. I don't really know what all the referees have as far as like a union or whatnot, but something has to be done. Because like when
Yeah,
they came up with this because when you saw the Saints didn't get that call and it cost them going to the Super Bowl, right? And then they said, okay, well now the coaches can challenge if it's a pass interference call. To me, that was just a cop out for the refs. Like
right.
so if they miss something, the NFL can come back and say, well, you could have challenged it. Well, if you're gonna do that, then you need to get rid of the two challenges and it costing you a timeout and all that. You should just be unlimited. Let's go back to the way it was. If the game's 5 hours because your referees can't get it right, that's on you, NFL. You know,
Yeah,
I'll watch five
yeah.
hour Raider game. That's for sure.
I would. I would totally do it. But one other thing that I was thinking of when I saw that a study that was released, I remembered a mention on a podcast that I had heard a while back. Somebody called in and talked about uniform color affecting penalty calls. Basically, what I found two studies that looked at that. It looks it looked at whether teams wearing black uniforms were penalized at a higher rate than teams wearing white uniforms, and it found that they really were. They were the two sports that were studied were hockey and football, and for both of the sports, the results showed that the teams with black uniforms uh, were penalized more than teams with white uniforms. And it even pointed to way back when, 1979, the Pittsburgh Penguins hockey team. They changed the color of their uniforms halfway through the season. They went from a light blue uniform to a black uniform, and using the same players, same team, same season, the penalty went up uh, about double when they were wearing the black uniforms compared to when they were wearing the light blue uniforms. It was really telling. There's definitely a bias when you look at something like that. So obviously, the Raiders, we're silver and black.
Yeah.
If you look at that, just an a subconscious bias against teams wearing black uniforms. Add that to Al Davis suing and beating the league
And you
and
have what
mixing
we
it all
have.
together. It just makes it just really makes it obvious how and why we are penalized so bad.
Yeah, but I mean, let
It,
it go, NFL. Al Davis changed the game. Yeah, and he was able to beat you in court. Okay, but you got to let it go now, because now Mark Davis just got you a publicly funded $1 billion stadium for you to host your draft and for you to host your Super Bowls. Like, let it go. You gotta
mhm.
let it go. And it's weird when I'm listening to you. My first thought is like, yeah, we're getting penalized more because we have the darker uniforms, but you would think that we would get penalties called for us because we have the darker. Because you're gonna see that white hand, that taped up hand on the black jersey that's ripping Max from the back. But whatever, don't get me going. I get so mad watching those games because you just know, here he goes. They ain't been calling the whole game. They've been letting everybody play, but oh nope, Kansas City, they're down by a touchdown in the fourth quarter, so here it comes, boom, or
Well, what was
whatever.
interesting is, something that happened in the league this past week was the release of the Centennial class for the Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah, here we go, another slap
And
in the face.
yeah, Tom Flores, Cliff Ranch, screwed again. Neither one of them got voted in. Well, somebody played an interview that they had with Cliff Branch a few years ago, and they asked, why do you think you haven't been inducted into the Hall of Fame yet? And he said two words. He said Al Davis.
Yeah. The way I look at it is like this: the Hall of Fame, yeah, they're still mad at Al Davis. Everybody knows that they're still mad at Al Davis, but they do not want to elevate that Raider mystique from back then any more than it already is, because they only
Yeah.
won one Super Bowl in the '70s, but they dominated the '70s. Most of those Hall of Famers came from that team. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
they don't want to elevate that mystique, but and yeah, I think they're still kind of mad about Fred Biletnikoff getting in with Stickum, and Lester Hayes is another one that is left out. That dude was a beast, man. Like, how is
Oh
he
yeah,
not
the
in there?
judge.
But yeah, I mean, it's a shame. It's a shame. It's a travesty. But being a member of the Raiders, the Raider Nation, it is what it is. It's us versus the NFL and the referees. So I mean, that's the story of our life.
Definitely. All right, well, Homer, thank you for talking to me about all this Raider stuff. I have had a great time today, but
Likewise.
I think it's about time that we wrap it up because we've got these NFL championship games going on, and I kind of want to watch them.
Yeah, me too. I want to watch those Chiefs lose. Please, football
Yes.
gods, please. But yes, thank you for agreeing to do a podcast with me. And I love the name that you came up with. I can't wait to see the designs that we can come up with. And, I'm excited.
Yeah, and this is a project that's in flux. There's going to be things we change about it. There's going to be new things that we try. Maybe combine a couple of ideas. It's going to be fun to see where it goes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, well, stay tuned, guys. Add us to your playlist on your favorite podcast app. That way, you'll be able to catch all of our episodes as they're released. and we will probably be back probably in about a week or so.
All right. Take it easy, Raider Nation.
All right, go Raiders.
Go Raiders.